All right, so for the next portion, all right, let's go ahead and look at the next portion. So we have frequency given right here, and if you look at your data table, the very next thing that you're calculating is you're calculating frequency, right, with that 1/2. So remember, we said that the units for wavelength were meters. Frequency is usually hertz, but it's also known as 1/seconds. What that ties into is that meters per second. We're trying to cancel out that second. All right. So, what that leads us to is we are, I'm sorry, we're trying to get to that second. We're trying to get it from here. So your equation is this one given up here. This is on, I think it's on the back or it's on the inside of your periodic table if you need to look there. Okay, so you do still have that option there. All right, but what we got to see in our notes when we did this, also it was one of the test questions. You guys saw a question that had lots of triangles on it, right? And that was the one where as long as you did that station, you should have had those answers, right? But I had it written to where if you didn't, you could have figured it out. So this might actually tie it all together for you if this is the first time you're seeing this, all right? So basically you have your speed of light, we have our lambda, which is our upside down y, so wavelength times frequency, okay? So speed of light is equal to wavelength times frequency. So the way that you use these triangles is you cover up whoever you're solving for. So right now we're solving for frequency. So I'm going to go ahead and cover up the F right here, right? So what I'm left with is I have speed of light divided by wavelength. I'm going to take my speed of light divided by wavelength. So back to my lab, okay, I'm going to go ahead and say, okay, the next calculation that you had to do is we're going to calculate frequency. Okay, we're going to calculate frequency. So just like what we saw, we know that it came from speed of light was wavelength times frequency, but we rearranged it to say frequency is going to be equal to speed of light divided by wavelength. We're dividing the wavelength underneath, right? All right, so if that's ultimately what we're doing, I'm just going to write a little note here. We know speed of light is 3e8, right? 3 times 10 to the 8th power. And we're going to divide that by whatever wavelength we got in the previous row, right? So I had this as my wavelength. That's my speed of light. All right, so when I go to type this in, I'm going to have frequency is going to be equal to 3e8. I'm going to divide it by my wavelength, which was 5.75 e negative 7, okay? So when I do that, here we go. We have 3e8. There's my speed of light. I'm going to push divide, and now I'm going to put my wavelength, 5.75 e. Again, that stands for times 10 to the, right? Negative. Negative is the button that's way down here. Don't push minus. You'll get an error, all right? So you're just going to push negative 7. All right, actually just to show you what it would look like if I did, look, it'll do that, right? So if that ever happens, just go ahead and push clear, and then it tells you that's where it's messed up, right? So we're going to put the negative now. And now that's what I get, okay? So just go to the second decimal place. Preferably you should round, okay? But if you forget to do the rounding rule, then just go to the second decimal place and that'll be fine. So I'm going to go ahead and round. So I'm going to 5.22, because this is a 7, times 10 to the 14th is my answer. So 5.22 times 10 to the 14th hertz, or 1/2, right? So when I go to write it in my my data table, I'm going to have 5.22 E14, and that's going to be what I'm going to write. Okay, so that's my frequency that I just got. So in, relating it to this, okay, is this a small number or a big number? That's a huge number. This is a tiny number. So wavelengths had to be really, really tiny, which means that they were happening more frequently. They're opposites. Okay? So wavelength went down and frequency goes up. Okay? So that's what we're kind of seeing happening with those numbers. So I'm going to go ahead and write that into my data table. And then I'll allow you guys about 4 minutes to kind of get those going, so that you hopefully don't have homework. You guys will hopefully be able to finish all your calculations. All right. So, oh, also to write, I'll write the keystrokes for mine. If you are using the same number as me for that first one, that's fine. So I'm typing in 3, and I push second, that x to the negative 1, which has EE on top, 8, and then I push divide, 5.75 second EE, and then the negative, which is at the bottom of my calculator, 7, and then equals. Okay, so that's what I typed in. So if you need to follow that a little bit, that's fine. Let me go ahead and I'm going to zoom into that so that way you can see it. Okay.